Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I am your host, Gamer K, and it's time for another game review. And this one is a bit more of a mystery than the actual cases in the game. A while ago, or last year, I did my Crimes and Punishment Sherlock Holmes video game. Now, after doing research for this one, and I love that game. It was amazing. It didn't have any extra stuff that didn't need be there. It very rarely made me irritated, but only because of the puzzles, because, I had to think. And so, 2 years afterwards, when the trailer for Sherlock Holmes, The Devil's Daughter was announced, I was really looking forward to it. Frogwares has built their name on the Sherlock Holmes series. So, does this game stack up to the intellect and the impact that the last one had? Well, let's look at the evidence for this game, and we'll find out. So first off, this game takes place during the timeline of the game The Testament of Sherlock Holmes, which was a PC game, and it has no correlation with the Crimes and Punishment. I think these two are different takes on Sherlock Holmes, but within the same realm. But they're two different takes. So in Crimes and Punishment, we didn't do the thing with Moriarty, and so that has nothing to do with it. This one is after in the Testament of Sherlock Holmes, Moriarty is killed because the big plot that really. Honestly, I watched the game, and it was confusing having to keep up with all of it. So, Sherlock adopts his daughter, Kate, as his own, she not knowing who her actual father is. So, let's start. So, The Devil's Daughter is a good game. It has the same graphics. It's got the same art style, which I love. It's polished, and it does make you feel. And this one has a little bit more open world feel, a little bit, because you can actually go out to Baker Street and walk around the neighborhood and all that. So, I give credit a little bit to that. A little bit of open world just allows you to investigate stuff. And there's actually a kind of sub-story during each case. For example, Kate is home from her boarding school because a pipe broke and it's all flooded, so they were all sent back to home. And that you can have dialogue with Kate, and depending on... Honestly, it doesn't really depend on what you do. Things are just the same kind of, just your reactions differently. I wish that they were... Anyway, I'll get to the stuff I wish for after I'm done talking about all the points. So again, it's a 6... Okay, I want to say 5.5 because one of them's barely a case. So basically, the cases are 6 cases again, and like Crimes and Punishment, they differ, and you can choose who's guilty or not while you compile the evidence and create the deductions, which I love that they kept that. Any future Sherlock Holmes games from Frogwares need to do that mechanic because it's beautiful. The cases vary from finding a lost father of a homeless boy or of a poor kid, which reveals some very twisted themes, from a moving statue murders a man in front of a historical club, to an American actor giving one to portray Sherlock Holmes and leads to a very, very scheme of revenge, to a deadly chain reaction that warrants further investigation. And throughout all these cases, a big theme comes into play around the third case, I believe, and oh boy, it terrifies me to no end. I don't like dark, creepy plots or schemes or environments because I feel like I need a well-lit area and only play them when the sun is up. I'm still one of those people who hate dark sections in video games because I get creeped out so easily. But the cases are pretty good. They keep a majority of the gameplay that is usually used. However, they do something a little different. Like when you're doing the character portraits and the investigating, when you have evidence that proves they're lying, For the character portraits, you need to get it right on the first time, or you'll have to redo the segment, like reload again, and just do it again. It's kind of easy when there's faded words that show what you're supposed to be looking for, because on some parts they'll give you two options to do, but only one is correct. So if you look at the words very carefully, you can kind of make it out. And with the means of the with the interrogation, there's not as much as last time. Like, we don't bring as many people to the Scotland Yard for interrogation as much. It sucks that you don't do that. I love that, going to the suspects and interrogating them and also the voice of Sherlock Holmes is different. I kind of miss the other one from Crimes and Punishment. He felt more funny Sherlock Holmes instead of serious a bit. But yeah, if you get it wrong, again, you got to redo it, like reload it before you do it. And I don't understand why they did it. It's like everything they did right to make it not so frustrating, they made it frustrating by having you had to redo it if you get one thing wrong. And for perfectionists like me, yeah, it gets a little irritating. Very irritating. Not only that, remember the evidence table where we could do experiments and put puzzles and analyze the evidence with chemicals and experiments? Yeah, we don't even use that. We use it like once in case 1, and then in case 3, because of the actor, he destroys it, so we don't use it for the rest of the game. We barely used it for case 2. So, like, why? It's like all these cases you investigate, you go out into the world instead of analyzing evidence. It's kind of boring if you think about it. That's one thing I love about Sherlock Holmes. He was not just a detective. He liked to solve things with experiments. I loved it. But they got rid of it for some reason. And they, honestly, having the actor staying with Sherlock Holmes destroy his evidence table, I gotta admit, that's a clever way to get rid of that segment, but I miss it. Let's see, what else? So, again, the cases are original and pretty interesting. It'll have you guessing a little bit, but overall, it can be kind of easy to do them because if you just follow what to do, you'll very rarely finish the case really quickly. Except for the third case. This is the one before the actor comes to stay with you. This woman wants us to find her missing fiancé, and it turns out it was her stepfather pretending to be another guy to keep her in line to get at her money. This one literally takes you less than 10 minutes. Whereas the Abby Granger case was a lot better. And the world's quickest case goes to this game. And oh boy, I wish that was the only thing wrong with this game. Which, it isn't. With Kate being here, I wish there was more dialogue going on. More dialogue. Like this part where she talks about wanting to talk with Wiggins, the street urchin who Sherlock uses, to spy, to gather information. I wish there was something more to there. Like, they talk and they kind of like each other. Sherlock doesn't approve, but in the end he comes around because Wiggins is kind of a friend to him. I wanted something more to do with Kate. Like, she appears once in every case, and it's not even fun. It's not even worth it. What else do I have here? It is exceedingly easy to get every trophy in the game. All you gotta do is do every single puzzle, and not skip anything. Every single deduction, every single all of that. There's not even side achievements for each case. I mean, they say it is, but all you gotta do is just play through the cases, and that's pretty much it. It reminds me of the CSI games, or that god-awful NCIS video game, which completely takes away the challenge. And don't worry, I will not be reviewing that one because I'm not that desperate. The story is somewhat simple, and it's pretty predictable because in the beginning of the game, we got a new neighbor, Alice Hamilton, which, for those of you who watched my top 13 worst video game villains list, did I put Alice on there? I think I did. But if not, she moves in, she starts being buddies with Kate, we decide to sneak into her flat, and it turns out there's a dark, creepy room in her flat. And it also turns out by investigating letters that she's kind of stalking us, keeping tabs on us, and it's creepy. Beyond belief. And then it turns out she's into witchcraft and all that jazz. And her father is a guy who Sherlock put in jail, and he died escaping, if I'm remembering correctly. And then as we talk to her, she obviously leaves some subtle hints that she knows more than she lets on. Normally I like characters like this, but when they're this obvious, I don't care for it. And every confrontation with her is kind of fun, kind of not, but oh dear Lord, it's scary beyond belief. And like I said, the thing with Kate, it builds up to nowhere until the final case. And it's a shame because they put this much effort to put her into the story and we do very little with her. It's a waste of an opportunity. Now let's get into the gameplay now, because the story I've already explained. The gameplay, oh my god. When did this become Sherlock Holmes Assassin's Creed? Because in one section we're Wiggins tailing a guy like Ezio did in Brotherhood. We hide behind the barrels, we go up on the roof and follow him. It feels like you're playing Assassin's Creed for a little bit. Also, one segment we have to perfectly buff a shoe in order to stay incognito. Like, who nowadays knows how to do that? And they should have made that into a trophy. If you perfectly shine the shoes, you get an achievement. But no. And and also the phantasmagorical trippy scene that's in case 2 is fun. I do love the puzzles. They're very fun to solve, but I preferred the puzzles in the last game, Crimes and Punishment. There were so much more, and they were based on the evidence and not just figments of our imagination. For somehow that works. No real clue. And we even do another sneaking around mission in case 1, in case 3 with the actor. Like, I'm sorry, what made them think Sherlock Holmes sneaking around would be a smart thing? Seriously, this is a little bit of Assassin's Creed all rolled up in Sherlock Holmes, which, honestly, sucks. It really sucks. I prefer investigating. We're not sneaking around here. Oh, and it's not only that, but we do the same thing in a pump room in the 5th case. And again, it's just boring. Very bland and boring. Although I gotta admit, in case 5, figuring out the chain of events of the accident scene, that was actually really fun. That was one of my favorite parts of that case. And we don't really talk to the suspects as much as we used to. I miss that. Let's see what else. Also, the villain of this whole thing is obviously Alice. And it turns out in the final case, she kidnapped Kate. And the scene with her in the final case is just beyond creepy. You will literally need a friend or have all the lights on in order to play that case, because it is terrifying as all belief. And it is very short. the case. If you do everything correctly, it's short beyond all belief, which sucks. For a climax case, it doesn't do anything well, except we go into a crypt in the cemetery, and it turns out that Kate finds out that she's Moriarty's daughter in his crypt. And oh boy, I don't understand what the thing is with that. Alice, her scheme kind of amounts to just telling Kate the truth and making her hate Sherlock because Sherlock put her father away. And also the scene where we're in the crypt where Alice wrote the message and everything. In the room that's next to it, we find her father's dried up corpse, and there's a bed there. Okay, yeah, I did talk about this during my top 13 worst villains list. So yeah, once again, if you thought Norman Bates had issues with dead parents, yeah, this chick has it in spades. And the final confrontation is not even a confrontation. All you do is just pick words to say to Kate. You save her, and Alice dies on her burning boat. The ending is lackluster. There's no real ending. It's just boring. So, I've never been this happy to be through a game review. So the main game takes about 10 hours to complete, and if you're a completionist to get all the trophies, which kind of like I said, all you gotta do is just play through the game, and that's it. It'll take about 12 and a half hours to do all the extra stuff to make sure you get it done right. Although the actual real conclusions to each case are very intriguing, I really, really like that they went out of their way to create something that you can kind of predict, but also at the same time, you kind of think, wait, maybe this is it. But it's really fun. It's really fun to see all these conclusions. But I just wish that a majority of them actually had some weight. Because, again, we're not really interrogating anyone in the interrogation room. So it loses some of its effect that it had in the other game where you were actually interrogating them. It feels... Again, this game was a big attempt for Frogwares, but unfortunately for me, it did not live up. It was a fun game to play, and I replayed it once because I wanted to get all the information down, but as is, I prefer, if I have to replay one, I'll just replay Crimes and Punishment, because at least the puzzles there keep me intrigued. And the backtracking in this game is even worse than that one, considering the fact there's nothing else to do. There's no puzzles to do in your apartment. There's nothing real fun to do. And it's just was a big wasted opportunity for a sequel. A sequel, if anything else. So, Frogwares, I really hope you guys get another Sherlock Holmes game coming, or anyone to do another Sherlock Holmes game, because I miss those kinds of detective games, and I really hope that they come up with another one. So, because of the lack of actual investigating and puzzle solving in a detective game, the constant use of a terrible Assassin's Creed ripoff tailing segments or in sneaking around, the story that combines each case is not there. It doesn't feel like it's there, like it was thrown in a last minute. The whole Devil's Daughter thing only comes up in the last case, and it doesn't even do that well. So when you screw up your namesake title, it's a bad thing. It's really bad. And if a guy like me can see that, odds are a whole bunch of other people are. But if you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes and you haven't played the game, get the game. It's really fun. I haven't spoiled any of the cases except for the final one, because honestly, it's the worst one. So, with all that, and again, and just the overall feel like it's missing a lot of content in this game. It's definitely one of the ones I have to give a harsh criticism for because I like the previous one so much. And when a game like that goes from here to way here, I worry if they're gonna make any good changes if they get another one. So, Gamer K's final verdict for Sherlock Holmes, The Devil's Daughter, is honestly a 6 out of 10. It's not a terrible game. Everything works. But I just wish that it worked more. I wish it had more to go on. So, that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Join me next week for another Funko review. And this one, for all you Kingdom Hearts fans out there, you're gonna like it, and I ain't lying. This is Gamer K, logging out.